Okay, folks. So this is pretty curious to me. This little earthquake that was felt here in the Las Vegas Valley. It happened yesterday. And, I felt a little wave, felt a little bit of disorientation for a couple of seconds. And, I used to like do a video on it every time, but then I realized that I was doing a video like almost every day reporting that I was feeling little movements. And it's almost like being on a boat. If you watched any of my other videos where I'm documenting the little bit of movement that has gone on in the valley here, then it feels like a boat. Feels like being on a boat. So, but anyway, there was plenty of stories. Local news picked up on it, reported on it. It's 2.3. And the USGS though, and the latest earthquakes, they've removed it from the USGS. So I think that's curious that they would. Even from the earthquaketrack.com site, they've removed it from their little map here. It's nowhere on this map. They're not showing it. And it was right down here in the McCullough Range. And if we look a little bit closer at that particular area there, we're up here in Henderson. And like I've said before, and because I'm repetitive, I'll say it again. I feel a lot of waves bouncing around in between these hills here because we have these foot hills over here by the Lake Mead Hoover Dam area. And coincidentally, there's a lot of little solar fields that are popping up. This one actually has expanded quite a bit more than what's here. They haven't updated that. Um, but I feel those little waves that move back and forth, and it basically bounces between the hills here because we have the Mountain Springs and we have the Sierra Nevadas and stuff on the west side, and the energy just kind of flows back and forth. So this kind of rocks a little bit typically on any given day at any given time. And sometimes it'll be strong enough that I actually feel a little wave come through. And I actually did feel a little bit of a wave, just a very slight wave, like I said, like I was on a boat the other day. Um, and it was right down here in this area in the McCullough Range. Let me zoom in a little bit more here because it was like right down in this area here. I'm pretty sure there's like yeah, here's McCullough Pass, and it was like right down in this area here. And I'm pretty sure this is like a mining operation here. If not a current one, then an older one, because you can kind of see where it's dug out. But if you look along this whole area here, and you zoom in on the Google Maps, and we've driven out through this area here, I can tell you there are absolutely very large power lines, electric lines, and you can see them strung out all the way through here, all the way out there. There's just all of these really high powered lines everywhere. And I'm pretty sure this was most just at a guess. I'm just saying it was associated with some kind of construction blasting and stuff like that because they're also like I want to zoom out real quick to show you here's where some of the bigger solar fields are to the south of our location here. You have to really zoom in to see, but these have even grown. These are much bigger. And I believe they're attempting to just fill this whole area up out here and all these empty spaces up with like fucking solar array fields. And coincidentally, but this was the direction right here. Here's where we're at up in here, up in Henderson. And it was from this direction here, right down where all of these very large solar fields are, that very large line of energy pushed in and came down into the valley here to southern Nevada, into Henderson back on August 11th of 2018. And it brought with it very intense vertical and horizontal beams. And I don't think that it's a coincidence that all that energy that was flowing towards us, towards Henderson, that I captured on that camera, I don't think it's a coincidence that there's these very large solar fields to the south. But anyway, that's a whole nother video. This one is supposed to be on earthquake. But anyway, there are a lot of high powered lines that run through here too, but um, they're getting ready to put through this high speed electric train. This bright line is getting ready to go through. It's shovel ready. They've already contracted, people, and they've already talked about how it's going to bring a lot of jobs and all of this stuff. And if you look at this map that they have here, you can see it's planning on going right up here through the 15 right here. And they're going to have to, supply a huge amount of power to keep this train moving all the way through here. And it wouldn't surprise me if some of this recent movement that the USGS isn't categorizing as an earthquake, when there were like several reports of it being an earthquake and it being felt across the entire valley here. There was even one that was reported from Henderson. So that's kind of why I felt compelled to do, this little video here to let y'all know I felt a little bit of a, not nothing real substantial, but just a little bit of a wave. for just a couple seconds that came through right around. I don't it would have been closer to like 4 o'clock, 4ish or so when I felt it though. So I just think that it's curious that they would remove it from the USGS as an earthquake and remove it from the latest earthquakes from, earthquake track too. But, this whole project, high speed rail coming through, it's just it's so interesting to see how they've pitched it because their local news has been doing a lot of reporting on it and environmental benefits. It's fully electric, powered largely by emission-free sources. Really? Emission-free sources. I don't know. 400,000 tons of CO2 removed per year. Supports Nevada and California's climate strategies. Well, isn't that special? I don't I don't know. I don't think it was necessarily anything nefarious with the earthquake itself occurring because, like I said, and like, some of these reports and articles talk about how, you know, uh, the lab has reported various other tiny earthquakes around rural Nevada over the last 24 hours, according to its post on X. No other information was immediately available. On average, about 10 earthquakes a day occur in Nevada, typically small ones. William Savron of the Nevada Seismological Laboratory told the Review Journal last year. Earthquakes are an everyday thing in Nevada, he said. And that's been my research too. That's kind of why when I first started experiencing them after I moved here, like I said, I was making like videos almost every day, like, oh my God, oh my God, the bus is moving, it's moving, we're moving here, and it was a shock to my system. But after a few years of being here, and this is how the body can eventually adjust to it, so that people like my husband who've been here his whole life doesn't really feel it. But someone like me, my body is becoming a little bit adjusted to it because at this point, when I feel them, it's like, oh, okay, well, that's just another little wave coming through the valley, and it doesn't seem like that big of a deal to me. So, and not that I'm lessening, the effect that it could have on our environment and exactly what's going on, but it's something apparently that's quite common out here. So I stopped doing videos every time I would feel it, but I feel it quite often, if not every day, sometimes a couple times a day. And there might be a day or two when I'm not, noticing it, so to speak, but it doesn't mean that it's not happening. But the fact that the USGS is going to omit it from there, it's like, I got to wonder if it isn't tied to the construction and the project going on to get that high speed rail going. Just and things like that, they absolutely could because they have so much invested. I mean, we're talking about a lot of money being invested in creating this bright line, this high speed, this high speed rail system that's going to get people from Las Vegas to Rancho Cucamonga in about 2 hours and 10 minutes, two times faster than the normal drive time. So it's going to be speeding down the middle of the 15 here, right down the middle of all of the traffic and vehicles. It's going to be going right down this little space right here, right in between the highway and speeding its way on up. And they're going to need, oh, well, there's some solar fields popping up on there. They're going to need more power to really get it powered up enough that it's going to be able to stay running, and they're going to have to supply that power all along this whole thing here. So in the future they're probably going to be putting in a lot more of these solar fields, and eventually this whole area down here is probably going to be just nothing but solar array fields. And then guess what happens once you accumulate enough energy over a large area like this, and the energy starts accumulating and it starts collecting and then it starts gathering up additional energy around it, like science has proven, you then end up with this electromagnetic field down here that, I mean, I'm telling y'all, they're already using some of these solar array fields as forms of directing energy in certain areas and to modify and influence the weather patterns and everything too. So it's absolutely going to have an effect on our entire environment. And they talk about how it's going to do all this good because it's going to be, eliminating all these emissions and 700 million fewer vehicle miles traveled per year. But you know, I think we're carbon-based beings, and they're talking about zero carbon and removing carbon, and some of these projects like this Bright Line are supposed to be reducing the carbon type of a factor, but we're already used to the carbon thing. We're carbon-based beings. So when you go wanting to put in these high-speed rails and putting in all of these solar array fields, and you're changing the frequency and the vibration from that, you're creating what I would call, and what a lot of scientists have called, frequency pollution. So you're going to have effects from that. You're going to have health effects. You're going to have newer health effects occurring because of the frequency pollution. So, I mean, there were people that were opposed to this whole thing with the bright line coming up in here. But, when they set their mind to these things, they always are doing it for our own good, right? That's why they put this pitch at the very bottom of the page for the environmental benefits, that it's for our own good. It's for our own good that they come in and they put in a whole bunch more of these solar array fields and create all this frequency pollution. It's for our own good. But don't worry, it's just in your head. If you're feeling like you're disoriented or you're feeling like you can't concentrate and focus on anything, it's because you're ADD and they have a medication for that. You know, if you're experiencing other different health effects and stuff, then, it doesn't have anything to do with the frequency pollution, though. Don't look at that at all. That's, just a conspiracy theory. It's your own health, it's your own lifestyle, and they have a medication for that. So, it's terrifying on a certain level when I sit and think about it deep enough. If I could go even deeper, but I think this video is long enough, and I've proved my point that there's a reason why the USGS removed that 2.3 from the map. And there's also a reason why the local news decided to pick up on it and run with the story. It's because enough people felt it, and because enough people said something, the news felt compelled to report it. So, and that's how it goes. If enough people report and, inform the USGS, hey, that's not cool, man. Why are you removing this earthquake? What's your motive for removing it from there? Why? When there's supposedly nothing really out here, but why? Why? I mean, can't stop big business, especially when it's for our own good, right? To stay mindful, folks. There is so much going on. It's just so hard to keep up with it when it comes to some of these storylines and narratives out there. I just felt compelled to put my 2 cents in on this whole earthquake that was felt here down in southern Nevada. It's there's no coincidences. No coincidences.